Have a seat. Happy Friday to you. No comments, just questions today. We get plenty of time for questions. So, welcome. I enjoy doing this. I think it's important to give access to the media around the state. Thank you guys for covering what happens. I think it's really, really important for citizens. I tell everybody when they come up here, and different chamber of groups come to the Capitol. And yesterday they had Broken Arrow Group and Jinx and the different groups come up here, and Blackwell, and I can't remember all the ones I've spoke to so far this year. But I tell all those communities, we have to be an informed citizenry. We have to know what's happening. And so I really, really appreciate you guys covering fairly and just putting the facts out there and letting them know what's happening at the Capitol and also what's happening in Washington, D.C. So thank you. We'll open up to questions. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if you saw this. There was a man who was arrested this week for human trafficking. There were 8 people in a car. Police say that those people came from across the border. You know, the border was a big part of President Biden's State of the Union. What would you say is Oklahoma's role in helping these people and also securing Oklahoma families?
Yeah, so I don't know if everybody heard the question, but really about the border and the security. What can Oklahoma do? You know, several years ago now, I think 2 years ago, 27 governors put together a 10-point plan. We sent it to President Biden, asked for a meeting, and it was just absolute crickets. We believe that, and now you saw last night in the State of the Union address, the president trying to address it. I don't think Oklahomans believe it. I don't think Americans believe it, that the president doesn't have any tools in the tool belt. I met with Chad Wolf, the former secretary of DHS, and he's went through all the list of executive orders that are available to the president of the United States, the things that they had implemented when Trump was in office. Part of our ongoing list of things. It's really simple. Enforce the laws already on the books. And really, it comes down to remain in Mexico. And so basically, there's 28 ports of entry along the Texas-Mexico border. And that's why we just don't understand, why are they cutting razor wire, allowing people to come in the border, and then now saying, and so what they do is they arrest them, and then they parole them, and they say, welcome to America, come back to the court system. And then the president's trying to spin everybody in a circle saying, well, the court systems are behind, and we just need more judges and more patrol officers, and we need Congress to pass $1 billion funding bill or $20 billion or whatever their numbers are now. We absolutely can just institute the Remain in Mexico policy. We can enforce the laws. We can start forcing people to actual ports of entry. And I also always caveat this with saying this has nothing to do with immigration reform. H-1B1 visas, state-sponsored visas. I believe that the governors and the state should control what workforce they need. And we're not opposed to people that want to come here legally and want to better themselves and want to earn a living and pay taxes and be part of our society and come into our culture and work hard. That's what America's about. But you're pretty blind if you think that we can have open borders and we can welcome you into all the state services and all the federal services and all the medical care. It's ridiculous, and I think American people are fed up with it. So from our state perspective, we're doing all those things publicly. I was just in the White House and specifically talked to Secretary Mayorkas about these issues just a couple weeks ago. And we will send troops to the border again if Governor Abbott requests that. We did that last year, and we're willing to do it again. Yes, sir.
Legislation seems to be on track to provide $50 million in state funding to advance levee work along the Arkansas River. If that gets to your desk, would you sign it? Would you be excited about that work beginning?
So the question was about levee work, and if there's federal dollars tied to it, and there's a state match that's required to add infrastructure to the state of Oklahoma, then yes, we'd be supportive of that. I don't know the specifics on what that is, but deepening the waterway system is something that we're advocating for. With in 2019 when I first came into office, when we had the storm situation and those levees were barely, held up. I know that we've been working for a while behind the scenes to replace those. And so If there's a state-sponsored match, then that's exactly what our savings counts for. That's why we have $5 billion. That's why we have to be fiscally conservative, because we need to invest in certain infrastructure projects across the state. And I'm never opposed to investing in infrastructure or things that are going to help our citizens.
Governor, would you support a rollback of criminal justice reforms such as those laid out in 786?
So the question was, would I support rollbacks of criminal justice reform? I've been a pretty criminal justice reform-minded governor. Since I took office, we've gone from 50th, last place in incarceration rates, to now we're 40th. We've closed 4 prisons. But when you talk about some of the criminals they've kind of wised up to what the thresholds are. And so we want to make sure that we're going to be a law and order state. And if I see retail crime, and if I see crimes at the quick trips and at the on-queues and at the different convenience stores, and we need to tweak some laws to make sure we can punish bad apples, then I'm absolutely I'm okay with that. So I don't know specifically on rolling stuff back, but we're also not going to criminalize. We're not going to just lock up people that we're mad at. We're going to lock up people that are stealing or damaging to society, or people that we're afraid of. And I think there's a difference there. We've got way too many people. Historically, were locked up on nonviolent drug offenses, and that was one of the things that I tried to correct a little bit in the state. But there are some retail crimes that we need to figure that out, and if that's what you're talking about, I'm supportive of trying to figure that out. Yes, ma'am.
You and some of your cabinet members have filed a lawsuit after the AG's opinion regarding Tim Gatz. Can you talk a little bit about that, what you're hoping to get out of this?
Yeah, so Secretary Blaine Arthur and Secretary Deb Shropshire and Shelley Zumwalt and I filed a lawsuit against the Attorney General, really for clarity. It's not adversarial. It's just, we need clarity around this. To us, we think that the AG misapplied the law. This opinion is, it's a head scratcher. And let me read you the plain language, okay? I just want to read this for you. So here's what the statute actually says. A cabinet secretary may be appointed as a cabinet secretary from among the agency heads within the cabinet area, okay? It's exactly what we've done. I'm going to read you one other portion. The appointment of a cabinet secretary who is also an agency head shall not otherwise affect the status of the other duties of the agency head. That's the plain language. And the Attorney General's opinion left all that out. So we think we win this. It's pretty standard. It's pretty normal. And again, I believe in efficient, smaller government. So why wouldn't I have Secretary Blaine Arthur, who runs the Department of Ag, be my advisor on agriculture issues, right? Why wouldn't I have Tim Gatz, who has worked for the state for 34 years and runs the Department of Transportation, be my Secretary of Transportation? And furthermore, when I first came into office, I looked at all the other cabinets that were set up by previous governors, Governor Bellman and Governor Walters and Keating and Henry and Fallon and everyone, and they've set them up the exact same way. So this is the first time an attorney general has tried to come in and pick on a cabinet secretary. And so we need clarity across the board, and that's why we need the courts to let us know what does that mean? What does that statute mean? Which I just read to you.
Governor, what about Senate Bill 1196, which the House of Senators passed? Passed yesterday, it's on the way to your desk, and that would empower or authorize the Agriculture Secretary and higher education chancellor to serve with the cabinet as Secretary of Agriculture and Education. Would you sign that bill, or would that hurt your law case that you're seeking, your lawsuits that you're seeking?
Well, in our opinion, we don't need any legislation. And I'm going to read it one more time. A cabinet, okay, and this is Title 74, Section 10.3. Okay. A cabinet secretary may be appointed as a cabinet secretary from among the agency heads within the cabinet area. So what that means is within the cabinet area, so Department of Agriculture is within the cabinet area of the Secretary of Ag. right? Secretary of Human Services has several different agency heads within her cabinet secretary. And so that's the plain language. The other part of it is the appointment of a cabinet secretary who is also an agency head shall not otherwise affect the status of the other duties of the agency head. So we don't need any legislation. We think it's redundant. I haven't actually looked at the bill. I know it's out there. And just, like I said, the AG's opinion has created extreme confusion. And if we need to solve all of the cabinet secretaries, not just for me and the way that we operate state government, but the future governor. They need to know exactly how to set up the cabinet. If we can't call them cabinet secretaries anymore and they're just called advisors to the governor, okay, just tell me what the rules are. But stop picking on, great state employees that have worked in state government for a long time that the agriculture people look to and the people in mental health look to Shropshire. She's a medical doctor. She's fantastic. And we just need clarity. And it's not fair to pick on these people.
Governor, you have an executive order that basically has cabinet secretaries approve spending by agency directors. In that respect, how does that work for the ones that play dual roles? Do they oversee their own spending with no oversight?
You're talking about the cabinet secretary. Well, if you'll read my executive order, and I think he's picking out an executive order that's expired. It's not in place anymore. And so it's an advisory role. Our secretary positions are an advisory role. For example, Deb Shropshire. She runs one of the largest agencies in state government with 6,000 employees. She's a medical doctor. She worked in child services before I gave her this promotion once Justin Brown resigned. So she heads this agency up. Her salary comes from DHS, okay? I don't remember what her salary is. You can look it up. It's public record. She volunteers as the secretary on my cabinet, okay? She doesn't get any extra money for that. And she also then helps me oversee the other agencies that report up to that secretary. So again, it's pretty much how businesses operated. It's pretty much how other governments have operated. Most executives have a cabinet. The President of the United States has a secretaries of different areas that help advise him. If in Oklahoma all of a sudden something's changed and we can't call them secretaries anymore, we need to call them advisors. Just tell me what the rules are. We need clarity. So that's what we're asking the courts to do. And unfortunate that we're in this situation. We think we clearly win. I've just read you the statute twice. I'll read it again a couple more times if I get more questions.
Governor, there are some concerns the State Department of Education is not giving out bonuses from the Teacher Empowerment Fund that you signed into law back in 2022. Have you had a conversation with Superintendent Ryan Walters or any lawmakers about it yet?
I have not talked to Ryan Walters about it, but I am aware of it. I've talked to a few of the lawmakers. I think our team has met. Hopefully they've come up with a resolution. I don't know. It's pretty much in the weeds on how they wrote the law and how the Department of Education is interpreting the rules. But it's our intent to get all teachers a pay raise. That's the big picture, and we think we'll be able to accomplish that. And then you've got people arguing about what a statute means. Sound familiar here? But the intent is, let's get this across the finish line. Let's stop playing politics. Let's get these teachers paid. I need the best teachers teaching in the classroom, and we've got some awesome teachers in Oklahoma, and that's why I keep giving them raises, because I want to make sure that they know that they're appreciated in Oklahoma, and they do such wonderful work teaching that next generation. It's such a worthy profession. And in Oklahoma, we're gonna appreciate them, we're gonna respect them, we're gonna make sure that they're paid market what that is in other states.
Do you plan to have that conversation with the superintendent soon? Because that's potentially $23 million as a state.
Yeah, our team is working on it. It's moving through the process, and so if I need to call Walters today, I can call him when I leave here. But it's moving, and I think they're going to get that resolved in short order.
Governor, can you support efforts to increase the Board of Education to include legislative appointees?
I know that's kind of being tossed around in the legislation right now. Don't really have an opinion on that. I haven't looked at the board makeup or talked to Walters or seen what that would do in with the board. But we believe that the rule tells the executive, when it's executive branch run agencies, that the executive has the majority of the appointees on boards. But then the legislature can also have appointees on the boards as well. There is a separation of duties where the legislature controls the purse strings, writes the laws, but the executive actually execute it. And so you got to be careful there, having too much, execution duties through the legislature. But as long as the board's balanced correctly, there's a lot of boards with those type of makeups, and we're generally fine with that.
Okay, thanks,
So,
everyone.
thank y'all.
And Governor, one quick thing, if you would. Governor Abbott, during the last primary, opposed a number of legislators who opposed school choice. And apparently, according to some reports out of Texas, they was pretty successful in that a couple of weeks on the House. Looking at the general election cycle in Oklahoma, do you plan to be that active in the election, maybe do a similar track as opposing legislators who oppose school choice?
Well, last year during the election cycle, I think we were 100% on the endorsements that we made with state and Senate members. And so, listen, I'm never going to shy away from limited government, smaller government, the freedoms that we believe in, the free market principles, the school choice, the smaller taxes. So absolutely. I mean, if there's candidates that I think are going to line up with Oklahoma values, and there's candidates that don't, then I 100% will play in the primaries and get involved and try to let Oklahomans know what I think. And again, this is the great thing about our democracy. And I'm not going to hide behind just saying, hey, yeah, they look to their governor to say, who should I vote for? I have it all the time. People call me, who do you like in this? What does this person really like? And I'll continue to advocate for that and let Oklahomans know my opinion. I go on the radio all over the state. Once a week, I was on the radio 2 times in Western Oklahoma this morning, letting them know, kind of giving them an update on what's happened at the Capitol. And I'll continue to do that and tell them what I think on elections.
All right,
Thank you.
everybody.